largest single convoy since World War II began, Canada's 3rd Division crosses the Atlantic for active service. And with their going, the thoughts of Canadians everywhere turn once again to their fellow citizens, men and women alike, serving on democracy's front line over there in Britain. As the people of London awake each morning to a new day of war, they know that their will to victory is closely shared by some 10,000 Canadians who live and work amongst them. Last night, Canada had bomb trouble too, but down on the borough, where the damage was worst, a mobile canteen from Montreal is already on the job, with plum duff, sandwiches, and tea for Londoners blitzed out in the small hours. Overlooking the sandbag shelters of Trafalgar Square stands Canada House, headquarters of the Dominion in London. And on the roof, high above Whitehall, the housekeeper makes his morning's rounds of the wartime onion garden. Downstairs, the cipher clerk sleeps near his code book. Since war began, he has lived at the end of the transatlantic cables, decoding the urgent secret messages that come in day and night from the Dominion. For in the hands of Canadians in wartime London, trade commissioners, government officials, businessmen are all the overseas affairs of a fighting ally to be watched and controlled as the war situation changes hour by hour.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. The last night was a quieter one. It's a bit better, sir, yes. The newspaper men are waiting for you upstairs, sir. Thanks very much, sir. Wait a minute. I see, sir, Dad.
So Canada's civilian front, headed by its High Commissioner, starts in on the orders of the day. And while the guards above search the blue horizon for approaching raiders, and the spotters on the white channel cliff keep their vigil to seaward, the Dominion's active service forces move into new positions on the fighting front. In a village somewhere in southern England, in the heart of the area threatened by invasion, word spreads that the Canadians are coming to town. There's little difficulty in finding billets, for many of these country people have friends and relatives across the Atlantic, and they welcome a chance to hear the news. But the villages of England were not built for an era of steel helmets and gas masks. This cottage dates from the 14th century, 200 years before the first white man set foot on Canadian soil. Today, the coastal batteries stand ready all around the steel-ringed shores of Britain. But inland, in the southern trials on Down and Weald, they're preparing the next phase of the war, the Allied offensives of tomorrow. And it is no secret that the training of these Canadian divisions has made them experts not so much in measures of defense as in the tactics of assault and storm. Down from the bombed-out headquarters in London are Bob Bowman, CBC commentator, and his recordist, Art Holmes, sending their daily report back to Canada. From General Victor Odlum, war correspondents get stories to keep Canadians at home in touch with frontline strategy. Planning the course of the maneuvers is General A.G.L. MacNaughton, today a prominent figure in the Allied War Council. And over there, Princess Patricia comes to watch the famous regiment that bears her name. Through long months, these seasoned assault teams have learned every new trick, mastered every new piece of equipment. Here is a special land torpedo for blowing up barbed wire left by the enemy to hold up the attack. Through the gap rolls the spearhead of the advance, rough-riding French-Canadian infantry, and behind them comes the main attacking force, an endless column of armored firepower. In the speed and din, they scarcely have time to recognize the two figures standing at the roadside, who have come to greet their Canadian soldiers in the field. Close by is the headquarters of one of the RCAF fighter squadrons. War-wise Canadian pilots whose job it is to be ready for trouble at a moment's notice.
Operations. YO, red, yellow, and white sections, scramble.
Maybe a routine patrol, or a convoy in the Channel being bombed, or a sweep over northern France. They'll know by radio as soon as they take off. In less than 2 minutes, they're in the air, flying at 300 miles an hour with all the precision of a skilled hockey team. They come from every province in the Dominion. Already, the Hurricanes have accounted for nearly 100 German planes. Perhaps by nightfall, they will have scored their century. Below, in the gray dusk of a northern airfield, Sergeant Pilot Martin from Vancouver and Flight Lieutenant Kerry of Cornwall, Ontario, go aboard their big Whitley bomber. They are one of many hundreds of bomber crews whose task now grows nightly more vital as the RAF steps up the intensity of its raids on Germany. They take off alone into the rain clouds gathering in the English twilight. They fly alone eastward into a darkened, hostile world where they can expect no help. All through the night, the radio men will follow them across the North Sea and the Rhine into the heart of Germany. All through the night, operator Enos Tombe from Brooks, Alberta, will stand by to guide them on their long journey home. All across the British Isles, observer posts, gun positions, listening stations are manned and ready for the night. But before the blackout falls, there's time to relax. On the village green, there's a concert by the regimental band of the Princess Pat. There are technical questions to be discussed, for the local members of Britain's Home Guard want to know all about the new Tommy guns which the Canadians now carry. Over the way in the White Hart, one of England's oldest pubs, the standard of Canada's dart teams nightly improved under the stern coaching of the village champion.
Very well.
And in the billets all along the street, old and young alike are hearing stories of a great land beyond the sea. A land of blue lakes and wheat fields, of pine forests and mighty rivers that flow down north. And in return for hospitality, Canada presents the Sultan's Saturday Night, a dire drama of the Middle East.
Enter, thou servant of the witness.
The midnight skies of Europe are stabbed by the beams of the searchlights. The men and women, soldiers all, standing on guard for Canada over there in the front lines, send their greetings home. Home across the sea to the new world beyond.
I went through the bars to draw my roll. They figured me out $10 in the hole.
And so, Canada, shall we greet you again from London? Good luck to all of you. Best wishes from all of us. And good night.
miles from the front lines, but very close to it in spirit, are the gentlemen cadets of Canada's Royal Military College. Corresponding to England's Sandhurst and the USA's West Point, RMC's function is to provide for the Canadian forces young officers trained in that quality most highly prized in any war, leadership. No easy school, RMC teaches that leadership is founded not in privilege, but in character and responsibility. Its students, all of whom will one day hold commissions, rank and are treated as privates. Only in the classrooms, around the sand tables, where the battle dispositions of men and guns are worked out in miniature, do they learn the strategy and tactics of command. Since its foundation in 1876, RMC has held closely to Army tradition, believing that men on active service draw their inspiration from discipline and example. For this reason, its students are at all times on parade. From this Spartan school have gone men who fought in campaigns the world over and earned some 600 decorations and mentions in dispatches. Graduation exercises held to mark the inducting of senior cadets into the regular army, the traditions of RMC are crystallized when the battalion parades in full review order for inspection by the Governor General as its Commander-in-Chief. Rarely today, save on this occasion, are seen the scarlet tunic, white belt, and pillbox hat, survivals of the full-dress uniform of the old British infantry of the line. And as the colors pass in all the pomp and circumstance of military ceremony, each man dedicates himself anew, as great soldiers all through history have done, to the stern demands of truth, duty, valor. Today, the stress of war brings changes to RMC. In the place of cadets already overseas are captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, senior officers studying for service with the general staff. There are new faces round the sand tables, where young students puzzled over elementary tactics, experienced tank commanders and bomber pilots now plan details of cooperation in air and ground attacks. And in the riding school, where bits and stirrups once glittered, and the flanks of horses shone in the light, ordnance men learn the grim complexities of mechanized war. For today, every RMC cadet, as he graduates, is called upon to take his place at the head of his men, and in the field of active service to assume the duties and demands of trusted leadership. And wherever these young veterans bear the arms of Canada, there they will take the spirit of her Royal Military College, the spirit and the hard inner strength that comes only of discipline. Hark how the drums beat up again for all true soldiers. From the lands that lie beneath the Southern Cross, from Sydney and Melbourne, Wellington and Auckland, from the Blue Mountains and the Canterbury Plains, the young men of Australia and New Zealand, the warbirds of tomorrow, are arriving to win their wings in the skies of Canada. And here are some impressions of the dominion they are visiting from these tall, sun-tanned men who have aroused the admiration of Canadians everywhere.
We hadn't been in Canada long before we saw a familiar face, Robert Gordon Menzies, on his way through from London to Canberra. He gave us the once-over and seemed to think we looked a pretty fair bunch. Then we settled down to work, to all the mathematics and physics and radio work you have to learn before you can press the bomb release at the right moment. At the same time, we started our flying courses, first with instructors, then solos. We're using North American Harvard trainers, fine, fast ships, even though the Canadian boys do call them struggle buggies.
We are the boys from way down under, marching to victory. We're not afraid of Hitler's thunder, we'll put him where he should be. The bombs, the decks, and everything else.
There's never much peace in the mess, and the people trying to write home can't hear themselves think. And here are some personal opinions about Canada from a few of the boys.
Well, Canada's a great place. They've been very good to me since I've been over here. I've had no trouble in seeing the country at all. People have taken me around everywhere.
The girls are good, but not quite as good as the girls at home. Here I've met people who I've only read about and never ever expected to see. And now I'm very great friends with them.
Our first Canadian winter was a real thrill. You don't feel the cold because of the sunshine and the dry air. And the skiing's good-o, once you've learned to keep the down things under you. But give me the summer, when the hills around here remind you of Kapunda and Bathurst. Took a couple of Sheilas out for a picnic the other day and showed them a trick or two they hadn't seen before. Chops boiled over an open fire and billy tea. You know, the business with a billy can to make the tea set at the bottom. Told them it was an old Australian custom. But in the end, we had to do things in the Canadian way. Hot dogs and coffee at a petrol station. It was a lot quicker, I will say that. I think we're all having a lot of fun here, and everybody goes out of their way to give us a good time. Now and then, some of us get homesick for Bondi Beach or Footscray, or even for a sight of Coogee or Coolangatta. But that's natural. And what a country this is. You have to imagine it, stretching 4,000 miles from the valley of the St. Lawrence over the Great Lakes and the prairies, which would have made good sheep country if they didn't suffer it with wheat, with the Rockies and the Pacific. And somehow the Pacific won't seem so wide after this. Meanwhile, 1,000,000 miles we've traveled, and 1,000,000 sights we've seen, and we're waiting for the glory that's to be. So long, Canada, and thanks for everything.
And Canada replies, Godspeed you, knights of the sky, and may the fortunes of war fly with your wings.